I said, and reached for my t-shirt and jeans. But Mom stopped me by wrapping me in a quick hug. "I thought Clooney would be safe and quiet. I'm sorry, Katie," she said apologetically. "Why are you apologizing?" I tried to keep resentment from my voice. I hadn't wanted to come to Clooney in the first place, but I didn't have a choice. "We don't know who was out there or why. What makes you think they'd have something to do with you?" "The letters," she began, and let her words drift into silence. I knew what letters she meant. Insulting, ugly things, some even with veiled threats, all of them anonymous, of course. It wasn't the first time Mom had received angry letters after one of her newspaper exposés had been published. After a record number of Brownsville babies had been born with serious birth defects, Mom had questioned the activities of the factories in the Brownsville area. Had toxic wastes been dumped into the water that fed the Resakas? Or had pesticides used on the large farms upstream seeped their poisons into the water? She'd been accused of fabricating charges in an attack against big business. Mom demanded answers and urged the local people to demand a government study. The residents were promised the study, but were told that it would take at least 2 years in order for it to be accurate. Mom is, was, and always will be a crusader. She couldn't ignore the plight of those babies born without brain stems and their heartbroken parents, and she also couldn't ignore the suspected toxic contamination that might have caused it. She had to make it public through her national column. "You've told me yourself that most people who write angry, mean letters never follow through," I said. "And if they really wanted to hurt us, wouldn't they think of something better to do to us than hide by our fence and stare at the house?" "You're right, Katie," Mom answered, and tried a smile that was more wobbly than reassuring. "Better get dressed. The sheriff should be here soon." As I pulled on my jeans and a t-shirt, then sat waiting for the coffee to finish dripping into the glass pot, I thought about Mom's work and her achievements. A few years ago, a man was sentenced to death in Huntsville, but he maintained he was innocent. Mom believed him when he said evidence in the case was first withheld, then lost. Mom covered the situation, and her columns, added to other newspaper stories and television coverage, helped people get angry enough that legal steps were taken. The man was freed, and rightly so. Then there was a businessman who tried to murder his wife and incriminated someone else. Mom's columns helped bring about the just outcome in that situation, too. National and regional magazines feature her articles, and because of the investigative coverage, lots of people know her byline. She hasn't won a Pulitzer Prize yet, but Mom never stops until she gets the story. As she put a cup of steaming coffee and a small pitcher of milk in front of me, we heard a car pull up in front of our gate. Heavy footsteps thumped across the cement walk that led past the French doors in my bedroom, around to the kitchen door. This house, which Mom inherited from her Uncle Jim, is a compact, one-story wooden structure without a real front door. The front room and the covered porch beyond it overlook a broad stretch of dunes and seagrass rolling down to the sea, so everyone who comes to the house has to enter through the kitchen. That didn't seem to bother the sheriff. He was a large, paunchy, beef-red man who more than filled out his uniform. "Everett J. Granger," he growled after Mom introduced us to him. He shook her hand. "I remember you from when you used to come to see your uncle. Last time you were in town was at his funeral." Mom pulled out one of the rickety wooden kitchen chairs for him, and I winced as he lowered his stocky frame into it. The chair shuddered, but it held tight. He took a sip of the hot coffee, then looked around the kitchen before he spoke. "It's been a while since I was sitting here with your Uncle Jim. This house stood vacant so long, I wondered if Jim's kin would ever come round to make use of it." Mom nodded. There was no reason she had to explain why we were here. But Sheriff Granger didn't see it that way. "So, how come..."